I would like to thank and introduce Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, who's going to give a brief bio, and then we'll kind of start with a moderated Q&A and then open it up to a few students.
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you. So first of all, I want to tell you that when I was your age, this is not what I thought I was going to be doing with my life. So first of all, take a deep breath. You don't have to have everything planned. I had a perfect 5-year plan. None of it happened. There's no like timeline you have to follow. There's no path you have to follow. There's no like should. Everyone's path looks a little bit different, and like take the time now while you're in school to actually figure out what you enjoy, what excites you, what problem you're trying to solve. And like, it's okay to not always be just like doing career things. I know that's what this is about, but I just like, sometimes I feel like when I'm talking to young people, everyone's like, okay, well, I've done 12 internships and this, and I'm like, it's going to be okay, you guys. I know things feel really terrible right now, but it's going to be okay, and enjoy being a young person. So my path, when I was your age, like I was saying, this is not what I thought I was going to be doing. I studied political science and international relations in college, went straight to grad school from undergrad and got my master's in international affairs focused on international conflict resolution, and kind of thought that I would stay in that field. So I started, my first job after grad school was at the UN. One of my professors was working there, and he hired me on his team. So I was at the UN, and then I went to UNICEF in their innovation unit, and then I went over to the State Department in the Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations. And that's kind of what I thought I would be doing, staying in the field of international diplomacy, international conflict resolution, that kind of thing. After the 2016 presidential campaign, so I actually worked on Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign in 2016 on her foreign policy team, thinking that, you know, if she would win, I'd go right back into government and stay on that path I was on. Obviously, we all know that's not how the 2016 campaign ended up. So right after that, I called my old team at UNICEF, and I was like, I just want to help kids again. Can I come back? Everything's terrible. And they were like, well, we don't have a job for you, but we're starting this nonprofit with some tech companies, and we're looking for a CEO. Are you interested? So in 2017, I started and ran international education nonprofit. That was a partnership between UNICEF and tech companies to map and connect schools around the world to the internet. And we were able to kind of prove the model in 9 countries and then scale it back into UNICEF. And now it's one of UNICEF's flagship programs. It's called GIGA. And right as we were sort of scaling it back into UNICEF and like trying to figure out my next steps, like was I going to stay with it and go back into UNICEF? Was I going to do something else? I actually landed at JFK Airport the day the first Muslim ban was announced. And I'm not a lawyer, so there was a bunch of lawyers in the terminal trying to help people get through. And I was like, well, I don't know how to file injunctions, but I brought them food. And I was like, well, what I do know how to do is policy. And I started working with some like volunteer communities on policy. And my youngest sibling is trans, and so a lot of the rhetoric coming out of the White House at the time was like really impacting his mental health, similar to what I know a lot of people are feeling right now. And I just kind of realized, like, if I was going to stay true to my mission of, you know, trying to solve some of the biggest problems that are facing the most vulnerable people, for a long time I thought that was international conflict, right? But if I was really going to stay true to that goal, then it was time to come back home and work on what was happening here at home. So I moved back home to San Diego, started a nonprofit here called San Diego for Every Child that is working to address childhood poverty here at home, and thought that I would help someone else run for office. I was like 28. And basically I was told if I wanted there to be a young person or a woman, I had to run myself. And after much prodding and, you know, a lot of like soul searching and trying to figure out if that actually made sense for me, I decided to run for Congress, and that's kind of how this all happened. All of which is to say, none of this was the plan. So, I know you all have a lot of questions about what you should be doing right now, and I'm happy to answer them. But as my journey shows you, like, there's no one path to getting into elected office. There's no one path into making an impact or public service. And there's lots of different ways that you can make a difference, and you just kind of have to figure out what makes the most sense for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like that kind of leads into our first kind of broader questions a little bit. You already kind of got into your early steps of your career, but can you maybe take us back to like right when you graduated, finding your first internship, the things that you kind of worked through to get there, and kind of what advice you have to students of trying to find that first initial internship that's kind of the first step?
Yeah. So I just told you guys that you should enjoy being kids and don't spend all of your time interning. I did not take my own advice. I started doing internships in high school and continued basically like most semester, I think every semester of college and every summer of college I did internships. But by the time I graduated, I had done a bunch of them. And like I said, I went straight to grad school. I actually did a 5-year program. So I started grad school my senior year of college and then just had one more year after that. So it was really the year I graduated grad school that was kind of my like, okay, what am I doing with my life now? And that was 2012. So kind of like the height of the Great Recession, not a great job market. Lots of my friends were still like trying to figure out what they were doing with their lives. And I basically talked to my professors. I went to college and grad school in New York, so a lot of my professors worked in the area. And one of my professors was the one who I did my like capstone thesis with, and he worked at peacekeeping operations at the UN. And I asked him if there were any opportunities, and that's kind of how I got my first job. And then I will say, like, you can get jobs just like blind applying, but that has never been my experience. It's always been like a professor of mine, or then like you're at an event for the job you're currently in and you meet someone who like works somewhere interesting, and then you get to know them and they let you know of an opportunity. Like I've never really had success just like filling out the forms. Now I will tell you that's not true of everyone in our office. Like, we literally go through everyone who sends in an internship application, everyone who sends in a resume, and we do go through them. So it is possible, and a bunch of my staff actually got jobs because they sent in an application and we hired them, including Willow back there, who started as an intern and now is my staffer. So maybe Willow might have more recent insights for you, because I've been in this job for about 5 years now. But yeah, I think for me, everything really comes down to relationships. And I feel like people say that, or people hear that, and they think like, oh, if my parents aren't super connected, it means like I'm never going to be able to get a job. And that's like actually not what I mean. Obviously, privilege and all of that matters and helps. But like, be curious about the people around you. Ask your professors. If, often when we're looking to hire with a certain like job description, we'll send it to professors in the nearby schools and ask if they have like recent students to send our way, right? Like, talk to your peers because they're doing the same thing and maybe they know of an opportunity that wasn't exactly the right fit for them but might be good for you. And I feel like when we think of this concept of mentorship, we think like, oh, there's this older person who like sees me, decides I'm like the one, and then has a whole career that they map out for me and I just like follow it, right? That's what I thought. That's never been my experience of mentorship. I actually think some of the best mentorship you get from your peers because they're going through the same thing you're going through. And so like, one piece of advice I have is like, be nice to everybody because you never know who's going to come back into your life, right? Like, I ran into the other day someone who I was their intern in 2012 and like now I'm a member of Congress. And so like, just, don't only think that the people above you are the people who have things to offer. Actually, I often find like your peers are the best mentors.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of things that I've kind of seen for a lot of people, which maybe you can expand on a little bit more of just different opportunities. I feel like there's always like I need the experience to get the job, but I need the job to get the experience, which I feel like is funny kind of joke, but then also doesn't kind of explore other options. And so I was wondering if you could maybe get into maybe some of the opportunities that you had that were not an internship or a job, like volunteering and figuring out kind of different avenues where you can start to make those connections, not only with the people that you'd be volunteering with, but the peers that you would be volunteering with.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we have paid internships in our office. If that's something you're interested in, I think we're going to hand out information, but also let Willow know in the back. Yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities. And actually, like, a lot of how we find people on our team is like they were our intern and then we hired them. And we try and, specifically in our internships, we try and find people who maybe wouldn't otherwise get that experience. And so we really do seek out, like, I think it's okay if you haven't done 12 Hill internships. Like, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for, like, maybe we're the only person you might get that opportunity from or something. But there's also lots of other volunteer opportunities, right? So everyone has a campaign, right? Depending on offices. Like Congress, we run every 2 years. City Council's 4 years. State Assembly is 2 years. State Senate's 4 years, right? Like, there's all these campaigns happening here in San Diego or wherever you are, and like find someone that you're interested in that like resonates with you, and like ask if you can volunteer, even if it's only a few hours a week. They'll probably take you up on it. We always need more help. And that's like a really good opportunity. And, you know, some people think, like I interned on the Obama 2012 campaign and I interned at the White House, and I'm really grateful for those opportunities, but I feel like sometimes we think that we need those like big opportunities to get experience, where like actually the smaller the races or the smaller the offices, the more you actually get to know the people who are actually in charge. So like when I was the Obama 2012 intern, like I did not get to know the campaign manager, right? But like my interns on like my congressional races, they get to know my campaign manager, who happens to also be my chief of staff, who does all of our hiring, right? And so like sometimes I think we focus too much on like what sounds good, and actually smaller organizations, smaller campaigns, smaller things, you actually like, one, get to do more because they just need more help, and two, like you get to know the higher up people better.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that just for everyone kind of in the audience, we will also be sending out a pretty massive resource guide with different opportunities. I know it's kind of hard to find everything, and so we're going to try to narrow it down for you a little bit. I started in kind of rural organizing in Idaho, and it's a great step up, and so we'll definitely send that out. To conserve paper, we're not printing it out, but we'll email it to you guys, so please look into it. And then before we get to student questions, I have kind of one more question. Yeah. Just because we have a lot of students in the audience who may not necessarily know exactly what they want to get into. They know that they want to help, be involved in politics, be involved in nonprofits, but it's such a wide field. Yeah. And so I was wondering if you could just share a little bit about the kinds of roles and people you work with on the day-to-day. Like, what do those positions look like, and how might students begin to explore different paths?
Okay, I will tell you all that, but I'm also going to give you some of the best advice I got when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So first of all, focus on what you want to do, not what you want to be. Because you can have really important titles and actually get nothing done. And you can do really important work from lots of different places. So part one of my advice is focus on what you want to do, not what you want to be. Part two of my advice is find the problem you want to solve. And then learn everything you can about that problem from every angle, and kind of fall more in love with the problem than any one solution, right? So that you can stay open to when different solutions come. And then figure out where you can uniquely make an impact on that problem. And it might be elected office, it might be nonprofit, it might be the private sector, it might be something else, right? But like, figure out, so I feel like sometimes, at least like when I was in your guys' shoes, it was a lot of like, okay, well, this is the next step. This is what looks good. This is what sounds good. This is what I should do, right? Yeah, I see a lot of head nods. Okay, I'm going to tell you something my therapist tells me. Stop shoulding all over yourself. There's no should. There's no should. There's no plan. There's no path, guys. Like, you get to make up your own life, and that's awesome. But so, you know, so I'll give you guys an example. So like, I thought I wanted to, and I did go into international conflict resolution. But, at first I thought I would go and get a PhD and really study sort of like the theoretical pieces of it, like how do we do this? Well, turns out being in a dark room alone with books and my writing just by myself for 12 hours a day is my personal idea of a nightmare. And so getting a PhD was not the right choice for me. I like being around people. And so I went into the practitioner side of things to actually be working with people, and that's what I like doing more. So it's the same problem I was trying to solve, but just finding a way where I uniquely could do something that more aligned with what I enjoy, because you spend a lot of time working, actually figure out what you want to spend your day doing day to day. So while my personal idea of a nightmare is being in a dark room by myself all day, many people's version of a personal nightmare is what I have to do all day, which is speaking in public and being around people and talking to people, right? And so that's okay. We need people doing all different kinds of things, but figure out what you actually enjoy and then figure out how what you want to do day to day fits into the problem you're trying to solve. And I think if you stay focused on doing something around the problem you're trying to solve, you will be fulfilled and you will make an impact no matter what, because there's so many different angles and ways that you can do that. So a little more about the specifics of the people I work with. So on our team, we've got about 18 staff. So we have my chief of staff, she runs everything, and my deputy chief of staff who co-runs everything. And then in DC, we have our legislative team, so our legislative director and legislative assistants, and they do all of our legislative work. So thinking about bills, all of the committee work. I sit on the Armed Services and Foreign Affairs committees, that kind of stuff. Then we have our communications team, so the people who write our press releases and pitch stories and do our social media and things. We've got 2 of those, a communications director, social media person. And then we've got some operations folks, the staff assistant who manages the interns and the front office, my assistant, that kind of thing. And then in our San Diego office, we've got my district director who runs everything in San Diego. And then we've got community representatives, and their job is to go out in the community, get to know different folks, go to different events when I'm not here and I can't do it. And then they also do casework, which is when people reach out to our office because they need help with a federal agency. And then we also have, on the other side, campaign staff, because I have to get reelected every 2 years. So we've got folks who work just on the campaign side. And that's kind of the folks we have in our office. But the people we're interacting with, it really spans the gamut, right? So I interact with people from nonprofits who are coming to talk to me about different advocacy things they care about. I talk to people from private sector who have issues that they need help with in the government. I talk to all sorts of people. And again, there's no one path, right? There's no one way to make a difference. I know it feels kind of daunting right now, but the only way to really know is to start trying. I was just talking to one of our staffers today who's I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and then I went and did paralegal, and turns out I hate it, right? But you don't know that until you do it, and that's why I think internships and volunteering are so important, because you're getting to know people who can then help you find jobs, but also you're getting to see do you actually enjoy this? Is it what you thought it was going to be? Maybe you end up hating the thing you thought you were going to love, and you end up wanting to do something totally different, and that's okay too. So there's no real way of knowing that until you just start doing it. And also, I feel we all have this idea that our first job is so important. But our generations, I'm gonna put us in the same generation, even though I'm a millennial with my side part. I do have kind of a Gen Z hairstyle today though, if I do say so myself. We don't have the same job forever, right? Sometimes you take a job because you want to build a skill that you can get from that job, or you think it's a good networking opportunity, or you just need the money and it's a job while you figure out what else you want to do. And that's all okay. Most of us don't keep jobs for more than 2 years at a time, our generations, right? Your first job, your first couple of jobs are not forever jobs. They're a step. So figure out what you're trying to get from that job, make sure you're getting that out of it, and then figure out how that feeds into your And the other thing I'll say, and then I will open it up to questions. I know I've been answering this one a long time. Who you work for really matters. So you could have the perfect job, but a terrible boss, and you're not going to be very happy in that job. And you could have a job that like is not actually what you want to do, but with a great boss, and you'll probably like it more. That's been my experience. And so like also when they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them too. Like make sure it's someone you want to work for.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to be opening it up to students just to be respectful of time. And so to clarify for the people online, you may not first initially hear the question, but we will kind of repeat it back. We have 2 mics going on at the moment. And so let me get our first question.
Hello, Congresswoman. I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're probably a very busy individual. My name's Lily, and I know you already touched on this a little bit, but I was wondering, when did your networking and community building really start, and what did that look like for you? I know I'm a college student, so one thing that our professors and stuff are saying is like LinkedIn, but when did that start for you, and what did that look like beyond just, professional career?
Yeah. Do you need to repeat it?
Yes, could I repeat? Yeah, I have a small, so we'll repeat a little bit, and then I think what we'll do is I will just stand a respectful distance away from you, and we're hoping that my mic will actually pick it up for the next ones. But it's, when did networking and community building start, and what did it look like? So not as, I apologize, I don't have everything, but kind of just explaining a little bit more about the day-to-day on that.
Okay, so I actually have a hot take. I think you should focus less on the idea of networking, because actually, I have found zero benefit in going into a room, trying to shake hands with everyone there, giving out your business cards, and having only surface level conversations. I think it's better to develop real, genuine connections with people because they're doing interesting things that you're interested in, then I must network with this person so that I can get this thing from them. So I don't know. I don't even have a LinkedIn, and I never really used it. Now maybe your professors won't like me telling you that, but sometimes I think you get this idea. Like I was saying about mentorship, right? You have to find the one person, and someone's like, "Will you be my mentor?" And I'm like, I mean, what does that even mean? Do you want me to chat with you every now and then? Sure, call me when you need some advice, whatever. And this is probably against everything you guys are teaching people. I'm sorry. But to me, genuine connection is what matters more. And that is gonna serve you so much better than being the person who hands your business card out to everyone in a room, but never has a real conversation with anybody, because it's very obvious that you're just there to try and get something from people. Now, that being said, when I was starting out in my career at the State Department, I had a boss who was like, you should do 2 coffees a week. Just go meet other people in the department and ask them out for coffee, and just and those kinds of things I think are important. Don't be afraid to be like, hi, you seem like you're doing something really interesting. Would you mind going to coffee? I would love to hear more about it. That's people love talking about themselves. So they will love to do that. But do that because you're genuinely interested, not because you need to check a networking box or think there's something they can necessarily give you. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll be moving on to the second question. Trying to find you. There you are. And I'm so sorry. I'm gonna be right.
Hello. Oh, you can. Is it clipped on?
It is clipped on.
What?
It's
it's
stickered
taped on.
It's taped
I see.
on. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My question is, when you come across young professionals, what skills and qualities are most impressive to you?
Okay, I'll repeat it. So when I come across young professionals, what skills and qualities are most impressive to me? Okay. It's a really good question. I don't get to do a lot of the hiring of our junior staff anymore, so I'm not the one who gets to make these decisions as much anymore. But what impresses me often is someone who really cares and is passionate about the problem they're trying to solve. Like, I come across so many young people that just like want to be near power or like are excited by the title, and like that doesn't impress me. What impresses me is someone who's like super passionate about something and like has done their homework on it. And the other thing I really look for, if my chief of staff were here, she would be making fun of me right now. But I look for what I call sparkly thinking, but like, Willow's laughing at me in lieu of my chief of staff. Sparkly thinking, which is like being able to look at a problem differently than everyone else does. And like, I hate conventional wisdom. Like, if you come and you're like telling me like the same thing that like everyone has been saying for the past 20 years, like that's boring. To me, I tend to think conventional wisdom is wrong. So like, yeah, I'm really impressed by people who can like think about a problem differently and have like a different take and are super passionate about things. I also really look for people who are like have strong work ethic. I know that like we're all trying to find work-life balance, but you know, we're also trying to solve really big, hard problems, and doing that requires hard work. And you know, I'm always more impressed by people who like are hungry and want to work hard to solve those big problems and are inspired by how big the challenges are instead of daunted by how big the challenges are.
And we're going to go to the third person. Yes.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned a lot about like really focusing and doing, focusing on solving problems that you want to solve. So as someone who has been like involved in advocacy, doing some kind of like organizing in different areas, how do you recommend using like these skills and like abilities that you gain in these different opportunities to be able to turn that into like a career or a job and different opportunities in the future?
Yeah. Do you want me to repeat it?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
So the question was like, how do you take the advocacy work you're doing and use it to transfer it into a job? So first of all, there are jobs in advocacy. So you can apply for those jobs, right? Like every labor union has an advocacy organizer person. And most nonprofits have people who do advocacy or organizing, right? So like campaigns have organizing jobs, right? So like you could actually just make that a career if you wanted to. But I also think like what advocacy is being able to sell a solution to someone, right? Being able to say like, here's a problem that's happening in the world, here's the solution, and here's what you can do about it. And that is a very relevant skill regardless of what it is you're talking about, right? Because it could be going into sales in the private sector and what you're seeing is like, here's the problem, here's our solution, and here's why you should buy it. It's like kind of the same skill, right? And like a lot of these are people skills, right? How to interact with people, how to get them excited about something, how to organize people. I think those are all really transferable. So I wouldn't be so worried if like I wouldn't feel so typecast, maybe is the word I'm looking for. Like a lot of these skills are transferable, and like a lot of the things that you're doing can be applied to lots of different areas. And like I had a boss, when I wasn't sure if I wanted to run for Congress, I had a boss tell me basically, or like a mentor tell me, like at some point in your career, you're either running a nonprofit, running a business, or running for office. Like if you get high enough up in your career, your job is fundraising. So just decide what you're fundraising for, but like it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a company, the executive director of a nonprofit, if you're like running for office, you get high enough up and your job is fundraising. Probably the people who started Triple B can attest to this, right? So great, like that's one skill you have to have regardless of what you're actually applying it to, and I feel like there are a lot of skills like that, you know, the advocacy you're doing now lends itself to.
Sorry, I left it there. Apologies. And then we'll go on to our fourth question.
Hi, my name is Winter. It's really nice to meet you. I had two questions. The first one you touched on a bit in the first half of the interview. And my questions were, what were your first steps in pursuing a career in public policy after finishing undergraduate study? And based on your experiences, how would you recommend a young woman in this present political climate to create a path toward policymaking in DC?
Yeah, okay, so the two questions were, what were my first steps after I graduated? And then how would I suggest in this current political climate what what steps someone should take if they want to get involved in public policy. Okay, so first of all, we're in this moment in our history right now, in our country and around the world, where the adults don't have the answers. We have a dearth of good ideas right now. There's not good ideas floating around willy-nilly. Like, we actually need all of your ideas and your creativity and your ingenuity now more than ever. So first of all, like, don't let anyone tell you you're too young to make a difference, because you're not. That's wrong. But also, like, don't think there's some man or woman behind a curtain that has all the answers, that is, like, solving all of the problems, and you just have to figure out who they are. Like, we actually don't know the answers. And, like, that is both kind of scary. Like, there's no one behind the curtain fixing everything. But it also means that, like, if you have a good idea, you should share it, because that might be the first time someone's heard about it, right? And, like, I think it's really important right now, actually, to get those kinds of new ideas, because we need them. We literally need them to be able to move forward and to be able to address the moment that we're in. Now I realize that's, like, a little more pie in the sky than probably you wanted, like, do this internship. And, like, I would say, like, find an organization or a person that is doing work that interests you, and reach out, apply for an internship, ask if you can volunteer. You might have to, like, try a couple of places, but, like, everyone needs help. So, like, you will eventually get something. And then just learn and figure out, like, is this my path? Like, some of the internships I did, I interned at a think tank, and I interned at, like, on the Obama campaign, and I interned at our local Senator Boxer's office here in San Diego. And I interned at, like, a couple of organizations doing, like, foreign policy stuff in New York, because that's where I went to school. So, like, just dip your toe in. There's, like, just start reaching out, start trying. I will say, as a young woman, you often have to know, like, twice as much to be taken as seriously, has been my experience. So, like, make sure you're prepared, do your homework. But, like, there's so many, I know I keep saying there's so many ways to get involved, but, like, volunteer on a campaign, apply for internships, like, just start writing pieces in your school paper about a topic that you're interested in, and then, like, send it to people and be like, hey, I don't know if you've thought of this idea yet, but if you have, like, I would love to talk to you about it, or something. Like, everyone loves talking about themselves, as I told you, and people love to feel like you look up to them, or like that you want to learn from them. So, like, don't hesitate to reach out. Often, like, you're doing them a favor by reaching out. And, like, the worst thing they can do is, like, say no or not answer, but, like, maybe they will answer, and maybe they'll be super excited to, like, get to tell you all about the things they're working on.
Perfect. I am a big proponent of the newspaper outlet. It's a great way. I was on my college newspaper, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I also feel like this all kind of connects, because working through advocacy on your campus, working with different clubs and groups, that's another way to find exactly what you're passionate about. And really finding that one thing can be kind of a huge stepping stone. We did want to give an opportunity for some of our online participants to be able to submit questions. I know that we might be running out of time a little bit, but want to get a few of those questions kind of. And so they've kind of submitted, and I will be basically reading it for them.
Okay.
So our next question was submitted by an online attendee, Ezra. I am a UCSD student graduating in 2027, and I'm interested in pursuing immigration and/or family law after graduation. And my question is, how can college students make a difference in their immediate circles advocating for causes they care about? So kind of bringing it a little bit more centered.
Yeah. Wow, I feel old that y'all are graduating in 2027.
I know, it's insane.
Yikes. Okay. Woo. I guess my Gen Z hairstyle's not really doing it. Look, this is a time where we need a lot of voices. And obviously, like, there's a lot of actual, like, lawyer work to be done. And there are ways to volunteer for that, whether it's, like, organizations like Casa Cornelia or Jewish Family Service, who kind of do more of that like direct legal services, legal aid. But there's also like important advocacy to be done. And I feel like sometimes we have this very sort of finite notion of what advocacy is, but actually the conversations we have with people we know and trust is some of the best advocacy we can actually do. Because the way to get through mis and disinformation and propaganda is by being a trusted messenger and by humanizing stories, by telling the real human impacts of what's going on. And so some of the most impactful things you can do is like talk to the people in your life about what's happening and how it's impacting you and why it matters to you. Now, often it's going to feel like you want to yell at them and argue with them and all of those things. Yes, I'm seeing some nods. Often what like feels the best is not the most effective, right? All of the studies show that if you actually want to get people to change their behavior, change their mind, you have to really do it through this like human story, not by like debate. Because if you're debating, they're just spending the whole time thinking about how they're going to respond to you. It actually hardens their position. But like, have those real conversations about like impact and humanity. And, you know, I know a lot of you are here in San Diego, but maybe you have family and friends who live in other places, and maybe they're not getting the same kind of information that you are here in San Diego, living in a border community where we like really see things firsthand that people only hear about in other places, and they have a really distorted vision of what the border is and what it means. And like, that's an important voice that we need to share with the people in our lives. And like that kind of deep connecting and like kind of like community organizing is really, really impactful. And I feel like sometimes we think it's like not enough. All I'm doing is like talking to my parents and trying to convince them. But actually like that is how we change people's behavior and hearts and minds, right? Is by like them talking to people they actually care about and trust their opinion.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel like it really does start at a very like localized level. I'm from a small town, and so moving to San Diego, it felt like it was just so big. And I think that there's really a lot of ways to kind of center who you're talking to, who you're reaching out to. And I will always recommend going to smaller areas and also kind of seeing how they're doing and seeing the kind of the information that they're talking about. A lot of the rural areas in Idaho are going to be completely different from kind of San Diego. And so really just expanding your outreach and kind of looking into different communities.
Yeah.
But our next question was submitted by an online attendee, Lauren Padilla. I am a first-year student at San Diego State University, and I am majoring in journalism with an emphasis in public relations, and I aspire to work on public policies and affairs with my local government or school districts. And she was wondering, what was your elevator pitch when networking early in your career without much experience? I know we kind of talked about networking a little bit, so maybe also just kind of, what was the first kind of thing to get your foot in the door? How did you start that first initial conversation with people that you were meeting?
Yeah. I feel like I didn't have an elevator pitch. I feel like I did all the things different than what you are supposed to do. I don't know. Honestly, I'm like, every job I had, basically I got because I like had met someone at some point and was like, hi, I'm interested in working for you. Please let me know when there is a job that opens up. And like, you'd be surprised how well that works. And also just like, for me, it was like, I knew I was working at the UN. I knew I wanted to go to the State Department. And I just like would tell people, I'm looking to move to the State Department. These are the things I'm interested in doing. Please let me know if an opportunity opens up. I feel like I'm not giving a very good answer. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but I really do believe it's true. Sometimes I feel like the advice we all get about like networking and all these things makes you think there's like a cookie cutter way you have to do things. And actually like being authentic and genuine and creating genuine connections because you're genuinely interested in what people are doing is much better than just like having the 10-second thing you say every time you meet someone. Now that being said, like, don't waste people's time. So sometimes people are like, can I just pick your brain? And I'm like, sure, about what? Or like, they're like, I kind of want to work in this. And you're like, okay, well, let me know when you know what you're looking for, and then I can let you know when I see jobs, right? So like, it depends on the situation, but I think people care about like passion and work ethic and interest more than like you having to prove that you've like done things yet. You're young. We don't think you've done anything yet. I mean, I'm sure you have done really interesting and important things, but like, it's not like when we're hiring our junior staff, I'm like, oh, you didn't have a job before this? I'm like, I know, I'm purposely hiring people right out of college. Like, I know they didn't do that. And often, like, we also have started putting in some of our, like, job descriptions that, like, we prefer people who have service industry experience because they know how to interact with people. And so, like, one of our awesome staffers, like, she was working at the Cheesecake Factory when we hired her. But, like, a lot of our job is working with people. So, like, also don't feel like if you don't get your first job exactly that you want, that you're on the wrong path. Because it's not true. Like, we were talking about, like, the skills are transferable, and, like, working in the service industry and being able to, like, interact with people of all different kinds and keep your cool and, like, be able to move quickly and change. Like, those are really important skills that are, like, very useful in a congressional office, for instance. So, like, yeah, I don't know. There's just, I think authenticity is the most important thing.
Yeah, I know that you were concerned of that question not being amazing, but I thought that was like, I don't know, just speaking for myself, it was kind of a big weight off of my shoulders of the fact that you were kind of just like, I went up to people and were like, hey, I would really like to work with you at some point. Like, instead of trying to figure out this big impressive thing, just being straight up and kind of I thought that was amazing. And I'm 3 years out of college, and that was still like a weight off my shoulders. Like, I feel like that works for any age. And so, yeah, that was.
Oh, I still do it. So, like, I will go up to my colleagues and I'll be like, hey, I heard you're working on this bill. I'm super interested in it. I would love to work with you on it. And, like, you'd be surprised. Like, people want to work with you. Like, you don't have to be afraid to ask things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of cutting through all of the fluff, because truly, like, the main thing that you kind of want to talk about is there. And yeah, that was amazing. We have one more question. I do not have a watch on myself, so I do want to make sure.
7:14.
Okay, so we are pretty good on time. And so this can also kind of.
We have 5 minutes according to Willow in the back.
5 minutes, perfect. Okay. I would rather ask the question than do like some sort of big ending. Yeah. And so I think we'll kind of just let this question lead into kind of your final statement, if that works for you. And so our next question was submitted by an online attendee, Brianna, which it may have been covered a little bit at the beginning as well, but I'm a current second-year sophomore at UCSD, double majoring in sociology with a concentration in law and also clinical psychology. And I just wanted to know how did you know that this specific career path that you're on is what you wanted to pursue? I know you kind of talked about that a little bit.
Honestly, I still don't know.
Yeah.
I still don't know, is the honest answer. Like, right now, it's where I feel like I can have the most impact. And while I feel like I can still make an impact here, this is what I'll do. And if another opportunity feels like I can make more of an impact, then I will go do that. So, like, I very nerdily, when I was, like, around your guys' age, like, I think around 25, I'd had like my first couple of jobs, and I had kind of like a quarter life crisis. I don't know if you're all like maybe feeling this. Yeah. And you're like, what am I doing with my life? What am I supposed to be doing? I'm not doing it fast enough. Yeah. All this, I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads. Yeah, that's normal. And I wrote a theory of change for myself. Like, what is the change I want to make in the world, and how do I think that change is going to come about? And then kind of use that to decide different opportunities as they come up. Like, is this aligned with my theory of change? And during that time when I was having this sort of existential crisis, right, is when a mentor of mine told me, like, the next thing you do doesn't have to be your forever thing. Like, what new skill do you feel like you need in order to be able to accomplish your theory of change? What new connections, what new experience? Like, then pick that and figure out where you can get that instead of like, I have to be making all of the impact I'm ever gonna make right now. So like, I decided I wanted to get experience managing people. And so like, I went to a job where I was like managing people, even though like it wasn't exactly the subject I wanted to work on, but I felt like it was important for me to like get the experience managing people. Or like another time I went and worked overseas because I felt like it was important to get that experience working overseas, even though like it wasn't exactly the thing I wanted to do for my whole life, right? So like you can also take the building blocks of what you think you're gonna need to accomplish your theory of change and like decide based on what you can get from that job in that time that you think will help build you towards that theory of change. But like, I remember how daunting that existential quarter life crisis felt. So also know like it's normal to feel that way, and it's actually good because it means that you care and you want to do something important. And like, imagine being a kind of person who didn't care and didn't want to do something important and was just like la-di-da. I mean, it kind of sounds nice, right? I kind of wish I was that. But like, you know, like in some ways having that question, like constantly pushing yourself, like, is this the right thing for me to be doing? Is this the right fit? Is this aligned with my values? Is this aligned with the impact I'm trying to make? Like, I know that's good. Those are the questions we should be asking ourselves. So try not to beat yourself up too much for your quarter life crisis. And so I guess in closing, I will say, one, therapy is good. Everyone should go to therapy. But also, look, I know that this is a really like difficult and uncertain time, and it can feel really daunting to try and figure out like where you fit into this world that feels like none of the rules apply and everything's falling apart, and like, what does that even mean for you as a young professional trying to start in a world that's all topsy-turvy and where like everything is terrible? And so like, first of all, give yourself some grace. Everything is terrible. You feel terrible because everything is terrible. Like, if we were all just like super happy with everything going on right now, that would be concerning, right? Like, you're feeling like things are bad because they're bad. And like, that's okay. You might not have all the answers right now, but like, staying in community, being in community, thinking about the one small conversation you can have that might start shaping how someone thinks about an issue in a different way, showing up to the things that are happening on campus, making your voice heard, are all really important things, and they do matter. And I will say, like in our office, any young person who writes into our office, we send a personalized letter back from me. So we love hearing from you. If you have questions, if you have ideas, please reach out. We love hearing from you. But the same is true for the other representatives in San Diego and people in general. Like, we want to know what young people are thinking. Like, I'm one of the youngest members of Congress, so when they think of young people, they're thinking of me with my side part and my, well, I'm wearing Gen Z pants today too, but my skinny jeans. Right? Like, people really genuinely do want to know what you all are thinking and feeling. You have more power than you think. And I know that that can also feel scary, but I hope you take it also to see that you have a lot more power than you think. And hopefully that gives you a sense of agency in this time that just feels so uncertain and overwhelming.